Hey everybody, welcome back to Steve Talks. What are we talking about today? Well, I'll tell you what we're talking about today. We're talking about today the Atari Flashback Classic Series. Now, the Atari Flashback Classic Series is from the Atari Flashback Series. Entirely different thing. What's the difference? Well, the Atari Flashback Series is a series of plug-and-play consoles. You're really all the way into the 2000s. Everybody had them. You plug them in the TV, that's it, and you play. No, buying games at the store. No plugging in an axle core, whatever that thing is. You plug in a few wires, your video, audio, and the other third one, and then bam, you play. Right? That was it. It was a collection of all Atari Co's classics. That's basically this. But instead of it being on a game console, you gotta buy, plug it in, plug it out. If you don't want to play it anymore, it's a disc. It's available on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, and they were all released back in December 2018, all three of them, as there are 3 volumes, and they all contain about 50 games, and were made by Code Mystics. Now, predominantly they feature games for the Atari 2600, though they do contain some games from their iconic arcade game line. Now, I own Park Volumes 1 and 2. I own Volume 1 on digital, but I do have Volume 2 physically. I got it at a retro game store used. Yeah, and now these games, all 3 parts, all 3 volumes of it, all contain online scoreboards, so you can see the scores of other people play the games. And so you can see who's number 1 on Asteroids or Asteroids Deluxe or Super Breakout. And it also allows you to host your own online game sessions where you can play with other people in real life. You can join them and you can even host them. So online gameplay of these old Atari games from their arcade selection to their from the arcade selection, particularly the arcade selection. And again, you've got online leaderboard scores, and these leaderboard scores go on and on and on and on. Currently, right now, I'm in the 6,000 range on Asteroids, so I'm very far from being at the top. But one day I'm going to be at the top, I swear to you, I will. Now, these also contain multiplayer, of course. That was both the regular old online multiplayer, which we hosted, like I mentioned earlier, but of course also a lot of these games for the Atari, a lot of the Atari games for the 2600, as this collection only contains the Atari 2600 games. The games are known for. As of course anything post to Crash 83, no one knows what they made. No one knows any games made for the Jaguar, not new day. Most people don't even know Atari made a Jaguar, or 5200, or 7800. Or what else they made afterwards. Really, no one cares. But besides, anyways. But yeah, so a lot of these are mainly Atari 2600 games, and a lot of these require multiplayer for you to really play. Now, the first classic Flashback Volume 1, it contains the unreleased prototype for Combat 2. Yeah. Combat 1 used to be the packing game for the Atari 2600 up until they made the port for Pac-Man in the early 80s. Now, they were going to make a Combat 2. I guess Combat evolved. Not evolved enough for it to be, well, of course, Halo. Combat evolved. Very different. Anyways, but they never released the game. Most likely due to the crash of 83. Like, a lot of games were never released because of the crash of 83. It was bad, man. It was rough. You should not have been there, especially if you're in the gaming industry. Well, anyways, and they have that on there, so that's pretty cool. And for notable arcade games, it's got Pong, Lunar Lander, Centipede, Millipede, the sequel to Centipede, and Tempest. Now, this one contains a lot of sports games. Atari Sports, Real Sports, a lot of those sort of games. And in my personal opinion, the arcade section in these games is what really lacks. They bunched up a bunch of their homemade Atari games. And of course, the fact that a lot of people might not, see much interest in this because a lot of the classic games were really made by third-party studios or other folks such as Activision. Activision made things such as Pitfall 2, a bunch of games. A lot of those guys made. So it's really you gotta really be an Atari fan because they got a lot now. For the Flashback 2, which is what I got here, as you can see, it actually has a fan game. Yeah, it's got a fan game. It's got Return to Haunted House, a horror game made by Atari, an earlier horror game. This game is actually based directly off the design of Adventure, this is the first ever adventure game. What'd you expect from the original? This is the Atari we're talking about, where they call it an adventure game adventure. Of course, you need to call it a game because that was obvious that was a game. But it does also have adventure itself too on it. Yeah. Why did they wait for part 2 to put adventure or haunted house? I don't know. Anyways, this is also has Asteroids Deluxe. I know it's so much better about it. I played it that much better, really. Missile Commander, Super Breakout, and of course Haunted House, normal Haunted House. No Breakout. Yeah, I don't know why because like I said, the arcade selection is really where it lacks. They don't have the arcade games, and the arcade selection is especially like part 1 mainly. It's not that great. Part 2 is a lot better. And also one part I gotta say that a lot of these games, especially on part 2 and part 1, they mainly require a lot of them don't really work well with joysticks. They don't really, because a lot of them required this sort of paddle ball. They sort of required a controller that would have only this sort of paddle ball controller that the Atari 2600 used to have, because it used to be like this analog paddle ball controller. You spin around. For like Pong and Breakout on the Atari, those don't really work here, because when you use like a regular joystick or even like the D-pad, that doesn't work well for Pong, doesn't work well for Breakout. A lot of those sort of games, they don't work that well on this. They don't really work that well at all, and it's really hard to move around like Pong. It's really hard to play it because it just doesn't work that well. I don't know much to say about Classic Volume 3 because I don't own Volume 3, so I couldn't tell you much about it. Though I do know Volume 3 has Canyon Bomber, Football, and Motor Rio. Now, Motor Rio it's got that. And Football, now I'm not talking about Football, the Atari game, I mean it's all made right. I'm not talking about the Atari 2600 game, I'm talking about the arcade game Football. The arcade game for Football, which had screen scrolling. It was very revolutionary for its time before to have screen scrolling. It came out during the football season. That's why it came out during that time, because it was football season when people would play football. America really loves football. You know that? We really do. Anyways, yeah, it's that's the one major problem. Also the music. Music kind of gets a little annoying after some time. Music after when you're playing it for long enough, the music you just can't sit through it any longer. The background's pretty cool. It's got like a bunch of like sort of imagery and art of like asteroids and that sort of junk, and the covers are pretty cool too. It's a collage of all of the great hits for as you can see, all of the cover art for the arcade machines and their cartridges, as they used to go really all out on the cartridges and cover for the arcade games too. Asteroids, you got Breakout, Super Breakout, you got Missile Command, more Missile Command, 50 games, as you can see, it tells it right there. It's got imagery too, you just got this gunfight, it's got a lot of these sort of games, what I'm talking about. It's really good. If you saw like the store or something for like used, maybe I'd say buy it. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3. It's pretty good. Yeah, I gotta say it. But the lineup for the arcade lineup's lackluster. Some of the games don't work well with the controller. It's got a lot of great features such as online play, online multiplayer. Emulation's really good, and it does really well. Yeah. I would say, go buy it. Anyways, this has been Steve Talks. I've talked to you about the Atari Flashback Classic Series, Volumes 1 through 3. That's what I talked about today, and I'll see you around later, yeah.